Hi, friends. Host Eric here. Host Talking with Fifth People. I've got some important news for you. It's going to explain all of your relationship sex issues. Okay? Positive, negative, whatever. Sex realities. You want to express your sixth function during sex. You want to be sixth function version of you during sex. That means I want to be directed or direct. I want to direct others or be directed by others during sex in a way that reduces me or reduces them to a a process in a larger function. Like, in other words, TE treats people like objects in a system with specific utility. It frames them through their utility, which necessarily reduces their humanity as understood through FE. Namely, it doesn't see them as being driven necessarily, or it doesn't understand them through this complex motivational network, motivational matrix of um, approximations of people's subjective motivational experiences. It processes it through their utility and how they can be positioned to uh, attain certain goals and stuff like that. So, in other words, for whatever, because that's just the way the universe works and that's how cognitive text, whatever, TE turns me on. It's true. What does Kimberly seek in our sexual relationship? FI. Authentic feelings, moistness, as that leads into an authentic expression of that moistness through physicality. Now, here's the problem, of course. TE and FI are things that are 1-4 of each other or 2-3 of each other. In other words, they're on the axis and they tend to work in coordination with each other, but also in an exclusivity fashion. So they're they're two they're two phases of the same machine process. For example, my freezer has a defroster cycle. When it stops freezing more, and then this heating coil turns on, so it stops the frost from gathering on the freezer coils. Um, T, E, and FI are like that. It's just like NE and SI are. That they one of them is going to be more predominant, and then the other one is going to be the heating coil part of it. It's going to happen substantially less. It's going to happen in support of the dominant one. This is especially true in the 1-4. So it's difficult to imagine then how one finds a sexual solution to a kind of sex that's both about each other, both treating the other person as though they weren't fully human, but rather a useful position, a useful part of a larger machine, and concurrently an experiential expression of the unique particularism of each individual extracted from any consideration of their utility. Now, it's true that to understand someone's utility to you, there has to be a clear understanding of what is being valued so that we can come on, slow internet. Come on, internet. Hurry up. bitch. So anyway, okay, regarding this TEFI thing, there's a lot of... All right, there. So the answer is very simple. This is not something particular to Kimberly and me. It's something particular to the ISFJ ENTP dual relationship. But it's also particular in its own fashion to every dual relationship. The job of that duality relationship is not to give me what I want. It's not to be easy and satisfying and fulfilling everything. That's an ancillary side effect. The purpose of it is to fix everything that's wrong with me. So, until today, Kimberly and I have had a lot of fights about sex, and they boil down to this. I have a poor understanding of what I actually want during sex intellectually, and a low valuing of it. So it doesn't really matter to me what happens during sex. What I have a high valuing of is the FE after the fact. I need to believe that I impressed her and that she admires me in that fashion, or is super glad to be with such a stud or something, right? So this was a conflict between me and Kimberly because there was incompatibility between us right off the bat, from the very beginning. Can you mute Chip Chewer? That's you, Anthony. You're Chip Chewer. Incompatibility right away. And then my basic take on that was, well, I don't really care that much. So, but I do care a lot about the FE. Now, she's an FE tool user when she's not having sex. So this was a odd situation for her because she's trying to use her FE tool function when we're not having sex to improve the sex itself because we're not very compatible. But I'm asking her to use her FE tool function to attend to my 8-slot insecurity function about SE by padding it with FE. So I'm saying, listen, I'm insecure about the SE aspects of sex. Am I able to last as long as you want me to? Or, am I able to persist for a long enough period of time without my legs getting tired and having to take a break? That kind of stuff. Because if my legs get tired because I get a squat, it's my thighs get sore. Anyway, and I have poor aerobics as well. It's like I start going, so those sort of things bother me a lot. I'm a 46-year-old man. I felt this need to compete on SE level with like 25-year-olds or something. And I don't really compete on that level. But the reason Kimberly and I kept fighting is because we failed to make some distinctions. Kimberly experiences sex on an SI level, which is about what feels good to her own body in the moment and not concerning herself with connectivity with the other person. She experiences sex on an SE level because SE provides her a facsimile of authenticity. SE sex is the man expressing their animal hunger and coming and taking her. It's very authentic in its expression, so it resonates with what she's actually seeking in sex, FI. What she hasn't gotten for years in dating is FI. She hasn't gotten the connectivity. With me, she gets plenty of that when we're not having sex. Because when we're not having sex, I'm using my TI tool function and under an FE aspirational framework that says Eric needs to be liked by everybody and Eric needs to be thought of as nice and kind and good by everybody. And then what feelings I do have, I'm very anxious to express them to Kimberly. I want to make sure that I'm making Kimberly happy. I want to be loved, and I want to know that I'm loved by seeing how happy she is, right? That's my FE third slot thing. So here we go. It's like she was saying, okay, you can be authentic SE, that is to say, you authentically, you know, manhandle me, or you can be authentic SI, make me feel good in terms of my body. Let's pay attention to my body. And I was very successful on the second of those and not very successful on the first one. Because it's just not my nature to be like, okay, slut, come over here now. It's time to fuck you, in a way that's not about the narrative, right? That's actually that thing, rather than talking about that thing. Maybe is more like me, but not actually being that guy, right? So when I would talk to her about how our sex was doing, how shit was measuring up or whatever in terms of success for against her own criteria, against various criteria, the failure to make that distinction between the SI and the SC expressions of it was a big part of the confusion. And so she'd give answers that were about one in one context, answers about the other in another context, without us making the distinction. And then the third way that she wants to express sex is through FI. That is to say, she wants it to be a physical expression of an authentic feeling moment that grows into that entirely unique, particular event that is an expression of that feeling. So then what I was failing to account for was that the things she was saying to me were actually true. Like she'd say things like, well, it doesn't make any sense to compare that because blah blah blah. On another occasion, she might compare sex with somebody to somebody else or something, and so I knew the comparisons existed, right? Comparisons exist. I've heard you say the sex was bad with that guy. I've heard you say the sex was great with that guy or whatever. The comparisons definitely exist. So then, if they exist, I want to know how I compare. Well, they do exist, and I compare meh on SE, I compare favorably on SI, and the only thing that matters what I compare on is FI. I already win that overall, but what I'm looking to express in sex is TE. So when I was trying to figure out how to have sex more, I Kimberly wanted to, it was through either TE or maybe FE if I tried that, or SE or SI, but I didn't get the fact that if I'm trying to do it in a certain way to achieve success on an objective level, I will always fail to achieve success on an individualist, particularist, unique feelings level that can't be objectively represented and compared against each other like that, because that's the definition of what it means to have an entirely interested judging function. In other words, your interest in something, your love of that thing, has absolutely nothing to do with qualities that can be objectively compared against other things. If I love my old fuzzy bunny from when I was a little child or something, it's not because it has any objective betterness than somebody else's old childhood toy. Maybe it's objectively worse, it's dirtier, it's beat up, it's whatever. The fact is, the valuing of it does not come from its objective qualities, it comes from your subjective experience of it. So since Kimberly kept telling me, I want this to succeed on a level in which it renders it no longer meaningful to compare against other things, then I was doomed to fail in finding ways how to compare better. Anyhow, I don't know what the ultimate solution to this is in terms of how it is that dual couples bridge this six function clusterfuck, but I would note this, that the beautiful thing about it, once I figured it out, is it moves the issue out of my insecurity function. So it no longer matters whether I beat those people at whatever I imagine in my head anyway, because that won't win the game. That's not actually a big successful winning move in this game like I thought it was. It's not the thing I need to get better at all. And the thing I do need to get better at, I'm not insecure about. I'm just retarded about it. That's all. It's like I'm super retarded about FI. My feelings, I want to let them out when I know it's going to be absolutely perfectly safe. And, the fact that that's all she wants out of me is authentic vulnerability It's something I'm gonna have to figure out. I mean, you can only do so much ideation about feelings. They're not objectively representable by symbols very well. So, since ideation works through those objectively approximate representations of the thing that they represent, and since feelings don't represent as they don't have clear definitional boundaries, then the things we use as words to describe feelings are just very approximate, kind of useless words. Their feelings aren't useless, but words about feelings are just about entirely useless as far as I can tell. So that's my big insight is you, whoever you are, you express your sex through your sixth function. Any other previous things I said about sex and driving functions was wrong. This is the NI right course. Everything else was musing. This has struck me as abundantly and obviously true. Now, what I really want to do is find out how the fuck ISTJs express TI, how they get off on TI. I get off on TE. I want to know how a person can possibly get off on TI. I'm sorry, darling. Your analysis is invalid. Oh my god. It totally turns me on to explain why you're so wrong. Right? Is that what it is?
Putting someone down?
No, not putting down. Not putting them down. Talking about their ideas through a disinterested framework. Your ideas are bad. It has no impact on you personally, of course, as the subject of the ideas.
But wouldn't it be SITI?
No, ISTJ would display and express sex through TI. Would want it. They'd get off on TI. Not just that. No, I agree with you. There are other modalities of having sex, as I was describing earlier. You can do SE, you can do SI, you can do FI. I just have to figure out how. But I'm saying, if I'm right about this theory, then really what is the most natural kind of turn on for ISTJs is TI driven sex. What's the most natural kind of turn on for INTPs is NI driven sex. In which and what would that be? Is the other person having perfect timing, understanding the flow of the process such that every time you kind of wish it would get a little bit more like this, the other person gets a little bit more like this. Or maybe you want to do that yourself. I think that I haven't quite figured out exactly how that breaks down, but INTP may wish to display, know, execute perfect timing during sex. And then that's how they achieve most satisfaction. I'm not exactly sure.
I think each type finds the ignoring function of another type the one that turns them on the most.
Okay, that's possible. You may say that NI turns me on, in theory, possibly in the other party. But what I'm saying is that's saying what makes me attracted to a person. That's not saying how I execute sex. So it's like I don't know about that. If you're I think everybody is potentially there's a difference between being wooed by something and expressing that as how you get off. Okay, my point is the thing that is most comfortable to get off on for ENTPs is going to be directivity. The thing that's most comfortable for INTPs to get off on is going to be timing. The thing that's most comfortable for INTJs to get off on is going to be TI. Oh, there we go. There's another TI sixth function. Jeremy, explain to me how you get off on logical consistency.
Maybe it's just so beautiful,
If you are an INFP, you're going to get off on timing like INTP. If you are ISFP, you're going to get off on things that make your own body feel is what I call it, the difference between rai, that's SI, right? And moistness, which is FI. Rai is SI. So you're going to get off on things that I distinguish from sexually specific. Like a back rub is a kind of SI satisfaction that's non-sexual. But you're gonna get
Well,
off
what
on the
was you looked
equivalent things
at?
like that, huh?
Look at that, what you just looked at.
Well, let's see. Meanwhile, TI causes me to go limp. If I'm compelled to start analyzing things during sex, we're not in a good place. Um, that's TE. That's TE.
I think I get off on SI.
Well, I mean, I think everybody gets off on SI. Everybody has some ability to masturbate.
Yeah.
SI is kind of a epistemologically default ability to access your body and to
I think I'm the idea of SI.
get off on the idea of SI. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Maybe
look, the thing is this, Jeremy.
maybe
What you gave was a TE explanation of how it is that things might express. If it is in fact a consistency of that, that somehow you get off on the fact that this makes things fair, then do you get off on fairness? Oh my God, the sex is so fair.
but Eric, maybe it's about why he's doing things. That's the
Maybe it's
I.
more about
Okay.
being like mutually, you know, good than fairness. It's the same thing.
Well, I mean, I guess getting off on reciprocity is in fact an element of TI potentially, whereas getting off on having access to the thing you value so much emotionally is FI. So I got to figure out how to do that. Well, I mean, we have on a couple of occasions before. She's pointed out instances where we quote unquote made love, and I was like, oh yeah. And I came up with a couple of instances where, like, I successfully killed it on SE grounds because she frustrated me enough that I was so horny that I was just like, come here, get on the bed, you know. There and so it's like, and I remember her being surprised after the fact that she was happy with that. But what she was happy with was the authenticity of it. Because I mistook, like, TE dominance, directivity, for SE dominance, which is like animal dominance.
How do you know when somebody wants that though?
How do you? I mean, my point is, the other person wants you to do their uh, six function.
They don't want it all the time, right? They
Just
only
during
want it
sex.
sometimes.
Just during sex. Now, look, everybody has variations. They don't always have sex the same way. You don't always get off on TE shit if you're an ENTP. But my point is, for you, then, it's FE. You should, if I'm correct, you get off either on, like, hierarchical kink stuff like, I'm the boss, you're the secretary. Or you get off on, like, oh, Sauce, you're so big and strong and successful at this. Oh my God, I am so impressed with you while you're having sex with me. If you get off on that, I wouldn't get off on that during sex. I get off on that after sex. That's a different kind of getting off, right? That's like
I'm the same. I don't know. I don't really know. It changes for me, man. Like, I don't
you're,
know.
yeah.
I just like sex in general. Like, it's just the whole thing's gratifying.
Okay, well, I think if the other party probably were saying, let's see who would be a bad match for you under this understanding. Well, if you were with your dual, if you were with ISTJ, they'd be asking you to give them consistency, and that would be the final evolution of sauce. The final evolution of sauce is to learn to express that polar function that we don't understand in the one place where we can naturally and vulnerably and wholly express and experience it and know it, and know it physically and know it to our core, and that's during sex. So your polar TI, you should become whole by exercising TI during sex if this notion is correct. It's like we all are unwhole because we don't have our polars, and we're insecure about our so-called role function or insecurity function.
So it's consistency that I'm looking for in a relationship sexually.
No, you're looking for FE sexually.
Okay.
You're looking for extroverted feeling. What I'm saying is that your dual would be looking for consistency. Your dual would be looking for you to provide TI in sex. And the thing about duality that makes you complete, I think, is that it requires you to then, both parties have to make sort of the ultimate vulnerability to each other if they want to fully satisfy the other party. That is to say, they have to expose their polar function and sit there with it and work with it and live with it and be in the moment. For me, it means being in the moment, actively valuing her, even though every time I have those feelings, I don't know what to do with them. Well, the answer is now I know what to do with them. I just direct them all down into my penis. Alright, so I'm very anxious to see any comments on this video. Whatever type you are, if you think that, remember, I want to make this clear, this distinction. It's not how you like to think about sex when you're not having sex. Okay? So, we all like to think of certain things about sex when we're not having it. Like, I might say, I get off on all kinds of different things, whatever. But to our authentic core, we each know we have within us certain modalities that we tend to turn to as turn-ons and stuff, whatever that is. If it's just grabbing her titties and fucking her, it's probably SE modality or something like that. I don't know. But I'm asking you as viewers of all types to dig into your hearts, dig into your spiritual pockets. You can leave your wallet in your pants. But, and provide me, yes, that resonates with me, 6 function stuff, or no, I've thought hard about it and it really doesn't resonate with me. I don't get off on that. That would be useful information too. If you're somebody who thinks this is wrong, that's great. It may play differently in different quadras. I'm still allowing for that possibility that different quadras don't quite work the same. Regardless, that's about all there is for this video, except there's one more insight I wanted to mention about ISFJs and INFJs.
SFJs and I?
Yeah, SFJs. No, NFJs. So, the thing is, because this is totally unrelated, actually. It's because NIFE is the difference between NIFE and SE and SIFE is that the parties know the thing in terms of the moment wholly, or in terms of across time wholly. INFJs are all about FE across time. Why? Because they have NI as their epistemology, which is a timing kind of thing. It says, I know what the single best course is. The same thing about knowing the single best course is I know that it's the single best course because if I take action then, given the fact that these things are going to follow later, and I take action then it's going to have these impacts. It's an understanding of how shit plays out across time. Kimberly is not good at that kind of FE. She doesn't do well with how shit plays out across time on an FE level. In fact, she tends to always make poor decisions, erring on the side of risk avoidance, because she doesn't understand the cross-time play out of it very well, because she's an SI Dom. Her epistemology is to link everything back to herself. So when she thinks about FE, she thinks about the moments in which she experienced FE goodness or FE badness, and not about the process over time of how to manage those things. And so she's fairly locked into having good FE in interpersonal relationships, but not managing FE well in the way that ENTPs would like it to necessarily be managed, in terms of, oh, hell no, that person's going to show you respect, and this is how we're going to manage to accomplish that. This is the FE, this is the TE about FE that we're going to do. Well, in contrast, INFJs actually have good TE about FE, despite their polar TE, because NI necessitates that they understand FE through a cross-time framework rather than a particularist event-based framework like SI people do. And that's probably why society has and needs so many ISFJs for every INFJ. Because ISFJs are the ones who operate under the social rules that are worked by INFJs, and there's only you need, and that's why chicks are thought of as being like FI seeking as well, as FI seeking or SE seeking. Well, how many chicks are ESFJs or ISFJs? There's these rumors, these things that people say like, oh, chicks like assholes. What that means is chicks are responsive to SE authenticity. Who's responsive to FE authenticity? ISFJs and ESFJs. Which make up the majority of the population of chicks, as if you were to pick two types, ESFJs and ISFJs. So, of course, that generalization is true about women generally, given the fact that it's true about ISFJs and ESFJs, and they make up a large population of the women. When you say to Susie, why are chicks so attracted to assholes? Why are they so responsive to SE success? She's go like, well, I'm not. I don't have that experience at all. Some douchebag comes up to me and starts SEing me. He's getting my knee in his balls. You know? I don't understand it either, Eric. I don't get it. I don't understand why they're like that. Well, it's not chicks are like that. It's ISFJs and ESFJs are like that. And INTPs and INFPs are responsive to if they like SE and FI, then you guys must be responsive to TE and TE and NI. TE and NI. So if you want to pick up on an I, huh?
Why TE?
It's the 8 slot function of your dual.
Oh.
You're going to be susceptible to attacks, so to speak, by the 8th and 7th slot function of your dual. So it's why duality is hard to achieve too. Your ideal partner is susceptible to being won over by people who use your insecurity function well and your blind spot well. So you're at a huge disadvantage competitively in actually attaining your dual relationship. And once you do, you're going to discover that there are problems in the bedroom. Unless you are somebody who's already learned how to use your polar in sex, or you can do the substitute one well. So if you're strong at your insecurity function, or somehow you've already accessed your polar function during sex, you know how to do that, then it'll probably be fine. But the deck's stacked against you in that area. But the reason it's stacked against you in that area is all of these things are complements. Wakefulness is a complement to sleeping. That's why in dreaming, your 4 is active and your 1 is deactivated. I mean, your 4 becomes your 1 and your 1 becomes your 4 when you're dreaming. In sex, the things you countervalue and are blind about during your rest of your day become the critical areas for you to succeed in. Now, in the course of a dual relationship, obviously, it's more important to have all the benefits of not sex time than it is to have sex be good, because most of the time you're not spending having sex. Most of the time you're doing something other than having sex. So the other thing to think about though is it's not a burden to have to deal with, in the sense of, okay, well, to get all the good stuff of not having sex, I have to have bad sex. It is your destiny to understand and realize yourself in those areas that are countervalued during the rest of the time. Countervalued or blind during the rest of the time. Because that's how you become whole. You get to experience those aspects of yourself in an entirely fulfilling, private, one-on-one, physical manifestation of the legitimacy of the least legitimate parts of yourself. And that's what's required of you to become whole. You've got to be that willing to you got to be that trusting, that vulnerable, that at risk with another person. Also, you have your clothes off for an extra additional matter of risk. You're naked and wholly exposed with your polar function in control if you are entirely meeting the needs of the dual. So I don't know if there's a single way to have sex that combines both TE and FI, or if people end up like taking turns or something. I don't know. Like this time we'll have FI sex, this time we'll have TE sex. I don't know. But I do know now that I don't blame her anymore for anything because I understand it. And I know that I don't feel insecure anymore because now I'm not failing at SE, I'm failing at FI, and that's fine. I can get better at FI. I like FI. I want it to be more in my life, and I've been seeking it anyway. And it's sort of a spiritual exercise. So that then will bring this video to a close unless any of the 4 parties present, not including the bot, have any comments. Okay, regarding the sample size and seeking validation from one person, that's the thing about duality is it renders those sort of things irrelevant. It's like I don't need to know if I'm successful as a sex partner anymore in general because what she's looking for is entirely particular. So now I don't have to care about that anymore.
Yeah, so you're narrowing it down to the one person, so that's what matters.
Right. In a duality relationship, you're no longer thinking to yourself, okay, I have to consider myself as a reproductively viable being in the reproductive ecosystem. You're just dealing with this one person, and it doesn't matter whether, oh yeah, I'm a big stud, doesn't matter to anybody but Kimberly. Nobody cares. I can be a big stud, and it doesn't do Susie any good because she ain't gonna get none of this cock. But so the only one it matters with is Kimberly. And because she has such a particularist framework by which she interprets success in that, I no longer can even compete against anybody in it because that's not the game that's not the game I'm able to win. The game I'm able to win is let's not play a sport. Let's instead just lie here and see what happens and really be authentic with each other or something.
Is sex a game you can play and win though?
Well, I mean, value to the other can be objectively represented in terms of utility. So, for example, I know I don't do well with FI understanding other people's FI as a reason to have faith or believe in them or something. So it's hard for me to understand that the reason Kimberly's not going to leave me or cheat on me or something is because she loves me. But it's easy for me to understand that the reason she loves me is because of all these particular things in which I can say this relationship is comparatively better than the other relationships she's had. This is what I bring to the table that makes this super good for her.
Security through action.
Well, it's just I don't get FI in and of itself, so I have to come up with these approximations of it, which are basically TI explanations under a TE framework.
Don't you think that different types value sex as part of a relationship dynamic differently? I mean,
I do.
Different types, as far as I can see, hold sex in relevance to relationship stability in quite different standards. I mean, for me, it's pretty high. It's sexual health in a relationship, one of the highest factors for me. But I can see how other types would quite easily have that as a minimal standard. So.
Well, I actually don't think. I think that might have to do with things not type related in terms of appetite. So it's and significance. The reason I find it so significant is because basically without understanding this heretofore, but it's the thing that helps me to trust her FI more, and it's the thing that helps me to feel safe in my own FI. It's like Um, I need her. I don't want her to. It's valuable to me because if it's not happening a lot, then I start to feel like I'm not getting what I need from in terms of the FE overarching agenda of being loved. Since I don't have a good sense of her FI or what that might be or what that might look like, I need her to successfully prove that to me via FE mostly, and the sex act itself is primarily there as an opportunity for us to bond over our mutual affection for and validation of each other. So, I mean, the thing is, yeah, that's all I'd say about that. Yeah, yeah. Any other comments on this very, very exciting insight?
I agree.
Thank you, Don Host Mark. And thank you for watching at home. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. And like I said, please comment and say the yay or nay or meow. Thanks for watching.